Hey, this is Vedat from Programmership. Let's talk about access controls in Swift. Access control allows us restriction. We can hide or expose methods, properties, classes, structure, etc. With that ability, it is possible to maintain safety in our codebase. In Swift, there are 5 access levels. These are open, public, internal, file private, and private. So let me write down. Let's say access controls, open, public, internal, file private, and finally private. Let's talk about open. This is the most visible access level. We can access properties, methods, classes, and so on when we import the module. We can access them from anywhere. So in this case, module is your main project. Here, the module of my file A is my module because we are in the my module 1, right? We can also create subclasses from the other classes and override its properties, methods, etc. Subclassing and overriding will be explained in the next chapter, which we are gonna talk about inheritance. Public level works like open, but there is only one difference. Since open level provides subclassing and overriding inside or outside of the module, public level provides this ability only when you are within the same module. If you are outside the module, you cannot use subclass or override, but we can still access that class or its properties. Internal, this is the default access level in Swift. When you don't specify an access level, Swift compiler will know it as internal. Internal level allows you to access property, method, class, and so on within the same module. So if you are outside of the module, you cannot access nor create subclass. File private, as the name suggests, file private level allows you to access a property, method, class, structure if you are in the same file. That means you cannot access a class that is defined as file private from another file. Private, this is the most restricted access level. Private level provides you access to a class, property, structure, method if you are in the same declaration or extensions or scope. You will understand what I mean. So let's make an example to understand it better. Here we are in the my module 1, right? And inside my file A, I'm gonna define a simple class. Let's say class car, and let's add some properties. Say var gear, that will be integer. Let's add another one, var, let's say wheel, and this is also integer. And let's create our initializer. And finally, let's add a method called start car. Let's say func start car. It will return nothing. And inside, let's say print car's engine was started. Here, we didn't specify any access level. That means Swift will know it as an internal access level. We could do the same thing like this. Internal, and we can copy everything just like that. In this case, we don't have to use internal keyword because it is defined as default. So let me delete this. With internal level, we can use this class or its method properties within the same module. Let's try to access the car class from another file in the same module. Here in the same module, we have a my file B, which is another file. And inside, let's create a my car object and try to access the car class. Here we can see the car class and its initializer. Let's say 5, 4 wheel, let's say 4. And at the bottom, when I say my car dot, we can see the properties, which is gear, wheel, and start car method, because they are defined as internal, and we can access those properties and method if we are in the same module. Inside the my file B, let's create a new class and try to inherit it from our car class. Let me delete this and create a new class. Let's say Mustang. It will be the child of car class, and inside I can override the start car method. Let's say car started faster. As you can see, guys, we can override the car class methods. We will also see inheritance in detail in the next chapter. Just stay tuned. So if I try to access the car class from another module, it will fail because of internal access. Let's try to access it from another module, which is my project 1. Inside this module, we have my file C. And to access the my module 1, first we must import this. Let's say import my module 1. And here, let's create an object var my car is equal to, and let's try to access the car class. Here we can see there is no car class because we are outside of the my module 1, right? If I change the car class access level as open, just like that, and change the initializer as public, then we can access the my file A from the my file C, which is in another module. Now let's try to access the car class again. As you can see, we can see the car class and its initializer. Let's say gear is 10 and wheel is, let's say, 8. And now I want to try to access its properties or method. Let's hit dot, and here we can see we are not able to access the car class properties and method. Why? Because we just defined them as internal. They're not public or open. If I change them as open, then I will be able to access properties and method as well. Let's say open, and inside the my file C, let's try to access them again. Hit dot, and there we go. Here, the gear property, wheel property, and start car method. That's all right. So just because we defined car class as open, we can also create a subclass from car class inside another module. Here, let's try to create a class called Mustang again, and that class will be subclass of our car class. Here we can get the car class, and even we can override the start car method. So what happens if I change the car class access level from open to public? Let's give it a try. Here inside the my file C, as you can see, we get an error. It said cannot inherit from non-open class because we are in the outside of my module 1, which contains my file E. As I said before, if we define a class as public, then we can't create subclass from that public class within another module, but we can still access the car class from another module. So inside the my file C, let's try to create a my car object and access the car class. And here we can see even the car class is defined as public, we can still access the class and its initializer. So this is the difference between open and public access levels. When you define open, you can create subclass and access the class from another module, but if you define it as public, then you can only access the class, cannot create a subclass. Well, let's use private keywords and see how it works. First, let me delete this from my file C, and inside my file B, let's delete this as well, and my file A. Here, let's delete the previous access level, and let's try to define this start car method as private. So let's try to create a car object, and I will try to access the start car method. Let's say var my second car is equal to car, and let's give some numbers for that. At the bottom, I'm gonna try to access the start car method. Hit dot, and we can see we are able to access the gear and wheel properties, but not start car. Why? Because it is defined as private access level. We can access private definitions only within the same class definition or its extension. I'm gonna add a new function into the car class, and inside this function, I will try to access the start car method. Here, let's create a function called test function, and inside this function, let's try to access the start car method. You can see we can access the start car method within the car class definition. Extension allows us to extend class or structure abilities. We can add more properties or methods into that class. I will also explain extensions in the future chapter. Let's create a basic extension of the car class and try to access the start car method, which is defined as private. So here, let's say extension, which is our keyword to create an extension. And then I will put our target class, which is car. And within that extension, let's create another function. And inside, let's try to get the start car method. Start car. And we are still able to access the start car method within the extension of car class. Well, finally, let's use Fileprivate. Let me change the start car method access level as Fileprivate. Fileprivate. And let me delete the extension. With Fileprivate access, I can only access start car method if my subclass is in the same file with the car class. If my subclass is in another file, I cannot access the property that is defined as Fileprivate. Here in the same file, let's create a class called newCar and subclass it from the car class. Let's say class newCar, and that will be the subclass of car class. And inside, let me create a function, another method. Inside, let's try to access the start car method, and we can access the start car method. And finally, let me try to move this new car class into another file. Let's move it into myFileB module, which is in the same module with myFile.e, and see what happens. Here inside myFileB, I will paste it. And we can see the compiler gives the error because it is inaccessible due to Fileprivate protection. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something. That's it for today. See you in the next one. Goodbye.